tell you when it's Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. So, tradition says, Ashok ji, please start seven realities and then we continue from there.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. The seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. 1. The only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the God in every finite self. 2. The only real love is the love for this infinity God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, become one with its truth, God. 3. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things body, mind, motion, welfare, even life itself are sacrificed. 4. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. 5. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward, with brotherly or sisterly when without expectation of reward, when compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. 6. The only real control is the discipline of the senses, to abstain from indulgence into low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. 7. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned to perfect calm to the will of God. Given by Meher Baba in 1952. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you,
Thank
Saket.
you. Thank you, Ashok ji. Uh, And welcome back after a small hiatus of my travel preceding Amartithi and then the actual Amartithi weekend. So we had 2, 3 weeks of silence on the channel. Hope people used it productively. Hope people also tuned in to the Amartithi webcast, the live cast from the stage, which was nothing short of beautiful. I still am going back and looking at some of the things that were there. Then, of course, over the weekend, literally Friday and Saturday, yesterday and today, we have sessions for again being live telecast from Mehrabad, the Avataric Treasure program organized by the Library Committee. So, yesterday we had two sessions, sessions coming up today. So, keep your eyes peeled. Keep your if you have the time, catch it live or catch it later on YouTube. So let's go and see where we are. We are in volume two of the book. So we are in volume two of the book, which is the period 1948 Jan to 1952. Very coincidentally, we are dealing with one of the most special times of Baba's life, which is the new life. And I should say we are having a double whammy of luck. One, at this very time, Ward Parks is working on a project to on the nature and the actual authoric purpose of the new life. So it's something that he's working on, which was coincidental, like I said. Apart from which, we got lucky by having him talk to us, our group, and a few others in Sanjay ji's residence in the annual Amartiti retreat, let's call it that, or Amartiti physical meetup on 30th of Jan. We had a chat with, he talked to us about the importance and actually what was Baba trying to do in the new life. And if you recollect, when we were reading the last 2 weeks in the Bal Natu book, we have been covering exactly the same period. So I think we as a group we have seen very closely the must period of Baba's life. We are still comprehending. We still go back to that period and refer. And even as Bal Natu's volume one covered it, we were trying to reminiscence and connect back to what Baba was doing in Wayfarers, and I mean what Dawkins covered in Wayfarers, matching against that. So now let's go to the book and continue the journey in volume two.
Yeah.
So we stopped at 85.
Karthik, just
Yes,
wanted
Sanjay
to
ji.
add before you start the reading is I was hearing to one of the sessions that you just mentioned,
Okay.
and there is a talk of new edition of God Speaks. So maybe you can
Yes.
catch up on this topic later.
It's
Yeah.
so it's so disappointing. That was exactly what I wanted to catch live. And I think they had some technical issues and I didn't
Okay.
get it live. The recording is still not up.
Okay.
So the topic is very provocative, like you said. It says what Parks is going to talk about instruction to Francis Brabazon or a new edition of God Speaks. So you can't get more
Yes.
provocative than that. So I if I find information, I'll share it. I mean, if I find the recording, I'll share it
Yeah.
with
Whatever
everybody.
update. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That
Jai
was a
Baba.
Ward Park Stock session two of yesterday's program. I mean, session one of first yesterday's program. Anyway,
Jai
thank you.
Baba. Jai Baba. Thank you.
So yeah, let's go to okay. So this is where we are, page 85. We stopped here. So now we start from Baba takes the oath. Sar Meher Baba ki jai. I will read for a bit and then we can, as always, within the readers. In the circular, Baba had made it clear that by accompanying him, no one was to reap the slightest spiritual or material benefit. Again, this is very clearly he's talking about new life. On the other hand, one had to be in readiness for every kind of disappointment, adversity. No special care for any ailment, physical or mental, was to be expected. In spite of this, those who wished to go with him were to affirm their resolve before God, the infinite. Baba too was to take the oath about his determination to lead the new life. Some of the standing injunctions for the companions of the new life were not to touch a woman, not to touch money, not to discuss politics, not to tell lies, not to create circumstances that might invoke homage, etc. The circular also stated it must be clearly understood that although every condition and standing order listed in the communication is, is absolutely binding on all who decide to accompany Baba, Baba himself is not only not bound by any order or condition, but is also absolutely free for all time to give any order to anyone, and that such orders might change or even nullify any or all the standing orders and conditions. So I'm tempted to take a pause here and recount what Ward also mentioned. So it's almost like Baba stepped aside from his avataric activities and his powers, right? Almost. If you see the last three, four lines, there's a reference to Baba saying, hey, I'll still give orders. Nobody can change my orders, right? But otherwise, if you see the first part, he says he is also taking an oath. He is also requesting the infinite, that is God Almighty. So it was almost like Baba in his avataric advent steps aside from his avataric advent role and comes down to the human form completely, right? So it's intriguing is one word I can think of, and I'm sure this experience of reading the account and then our discussions and so on will help us understand more and more. But it's intriguing to say the least. Okay. Any other comments before I continue? No. Okay. When I continue, when Donkin finished reading the reading of the entire circular, a deep silence prevailed in the hall. Everyone seemed to sense the immensity of the new life phase. Baba and all of us stood up. On behalf of Baba, the following oath was solemnly read out. Before God, the Absolute, whom those who have realized know as their own self, and whom believers believe to be all pervading, all knowing, all loving, and all merciful, before this infinite existence, Baba, on behalf of himself and his followers, asks forgiveness for all mental, physical, and moral weaknesses called sins, and for all lies and false dealings, and for all impure and selfish actions. Before this infinite God, whoever was, ever is, and ever will be, Baba decides today on the new life that he and those who accompany him will enter from October 16, 1949, and lead on till the end. This new life will be based absolutely on all that has been dictated by Baba in the circular of conditions. Baba invokes God to make him stand by it as firmly and steadfastly as his companions in his new life are required to be. All the people from the list approved by Baba received a copy of the circular. All were asked to go through each clause carefully, word by word. No one was expected to approach Baba for any clarification whatsoever. Everyone was to convey his decision by writing just one word on the last page, yes or no, and to add one signature below it. This copy was to be personally handed over to Baba. When the distribution of the copies was over, the doors were opened and Baba ordered a break for tea and refreshment. It was perhaps meant to offer some time for each to go through all the pages thoroughly, to think well of the consequences, and to arrive at a final decision. The blessed day in my life. The resident disciples who already knew about the nature of the new life had perhaps arrived at their final decisions. They did not look very preoccupied, but those from the outstations seemed indecisive. So it appeared to me. As I was having tea, Gadekar said to me, you must have decided in the affirmative to go with Baba. Before I could speak a word, another of my friends seconded him and added, you are right, Gadekar. I felt rather astonished and asked him the reason for his inference. He related that a few days ago he had visited Mehrazad. There, during an incidental conversation, Baba mentioned that I, being unmarried, might prefer to accompany him in his new life. Baba's indirect hint that I might accompany him removed any hesitation I had, and I completely resolved to go with him. Here, I must also mention an earlier incident that contributed to my decision. In the morning, I was standing with Sadashiv Patel near Muhammad, the resident must of Mehrabad. I was never interested in purposely meeting the must or in asking them anything. I was just strolling with Patel. Coincidentally, Muhammad, however, with his far off gaze, turned towards me, stammered just a sentence: God bless you. Patel told me that this uninvited utterance meant something auspicious. And indeed, August 31, 1949 was one of the best and most blessed days of my life. These two incidents strengthened my original decision to accompany Baba at any cost. I must admit that I had no idea what day-to-day living with Baba was like in the old life, much less what it would be like in the new life. But deep down in me, I felt what else could be better than being in close company with Baba, the beloved master? In a way, this was extended selfishness. I was given the choice, and I wanted to make the best of it. The only thought that clouded my conscience a bit was whether my accompanying Baba would prove burdensome to the other companions. I was ignorant of the tests and trials, physical and mental, mentioned in the circular. God willing, ignorance is not only bliss, but sometimes makes it easier to decide such things. Anyway, I regarded this chance as the greatest opportunity in my life, and with all sincerity, I wrote yes at the end of the circular, signed it, and returned it to Baba. Three groups. After refreshment, as we gathered in the hall, Baba made us sit in three groups. The first was of the arrangement walas: Sarosh, Meherji, Nariman, and Ramju. They were entrusted with the work of carrying out certain arrangements approved by Baba. The second group was of the no walas. They were those who wrote no on the circular as they gave it back to Baba. Adri, Deshmukh, Gadekar, and a few others were in this group. Baba was surprised to find Padri, one of his long standing intimate disciples, sitting among the no walas. Baba, however, conveyed Pendu, Padri, Adi, and Vishnu are the four pillars of Mehrabad. Three have decided to accompany me in my new life. In case anything untoward happens to them, at least one of the pillars is safe. Some Nowalas looked rather dejected at their inability to join Baba in his new life. To console Gadekar, who was almost in tears, Baba gestured, May God always keep Gadekar in my heart. Pointing at Deshmukh, he conveyed, He will always be near and dear to me. He asked both of them not to worry over what they had decided. Among the Yeswalas, those who decided to accompany Baba, Jal Kerawala's decision was a pleasant surprise. According to Baba's previous instructions, he was to be regarded as one of the arrangement walas. But inadvertently, he received the circular and instantaneously determined to give up his high ranking government post and leave all his worldly ties. Baba appreciated his love and courage, but as a special case, there and then, he absolved him of his resolve. He was asked to continue his services and to help the arrangement walas. Excluding Jal Kerawala, there were 22 men in his third group: Gustaji, Adi, Donkin, Neelu, Dhani, Pendu, Patel, Vishnu, Murli, which is Kale, Anna, that is Jakkal, Babadas, Daulat Singh, Kaka, Erach, Baidul, Loba, Minu Kharas, Pandoba, which is Deshmukh, Kishan Singh, Hagan, Manek Mehta, and Bal Natu. Out of these, 22, eventually 16 accompanied Baba in his new life. Referring to the Yeswalas who had come from the outstations, Baba instructed, be thoroughly prepared to leave your home and everything connected with your worldly things once for all. If there are any difficulties, try to overcome them, but do not inform me or ask me anything about them. You are responsible for your decision and everything connected with it. Be at Mehrabad by the morning of October 1. When you step into the premises of Mehrabad, don't have any money with you. Be here in the dress that you generally wear, no extra clothes. You may, however, bring one kambal, coarse woolen blanket. That's all. After lunch, some of us, with the firm resolve to be at Mehrabad, as ordered by Baba, left for the railway station. The new life, it seemed, had already commenced. Okay, it's very interesting, right? That ends that chapter. And the next chapter is old life ends, new life begins. Um, Anybody in a position to read for a bit who wants to take over now?
Yeah. Let me read. Yeah.
Sure, thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Old life ends, new life begins. 1949, part Yeswalas who stayed behind. Out of 23 Yeswalas who decided to go with Baba, a few came in for special attention. Meenu Kharas from Karachi, Pakistan, was interested. Those who is okay, Yeswalas and no walas definition here. Yeah. Was entrusted with an important job by Baba. He did it during the given time limit to Baba's satisfaction, and Baba felt so pleased that of his own, he released Meenu from joining the new life physically. Though he could remain in the Yeswala category. Pandoba Deshmukh from Ahmednagar, who had stayed in the ashram at Mehrabad in 1926-27, approached Baba in the first week of September and wished to be included in the group of Novalas. On second thought, Pandoba felt himself physically unfit to bear the strain of new life. Considering his age, Baba granted the request. He, at the same time, asked him to follow some special instructions. For quite a long period, Kishan Singh had been repeatedly imploring Baba to allow him to stay near him permanently. He was ready, at a signal from Baba, to leave his job and family in view of family. In view of this situation, Adi wrote to him in June 1949 that he should not go to Mirabad with his bag and baggage unless definite instructions from Baba to that effect were received. In the interview that followed, Baba asked him to attend the meeting on August 31. It was quite evident that Kishan Singh had decided to join Baba in his new life. But God willed otherwise. After his return to Delhi, he found that if the necessary papers were not signed by him before October 16, his family would face some legal difficulties in receiving his pension. He wrote a letter to the controller of accounts asking him to speed up the process. He also forwarded a copy of it to Adi for his information. In this letter, he mentioned an inquiry in connection with a false charge made against him. The investigation in progress, it started, it seemed, would not be over by October 1949. When this letter was brought to Baba's notice, he directed Adi to send the following telegram to Kishan Singh. Roll up. Yeah. In view of your letter, I forgive you and free you from your yes promise and want you definitely to stay home as up and now and rest assured your spiritual connections with me will remain as before. The contents of the above telegram were quite disappointing to Kishan Singh, who ardently longed to accompany Baba. He wrote to Adi about this, who sent him an apt reply, a part of which follows. I realize how disappointed you have become of the sudden receipt of Baba's telegram cancelling your joining him. In this respect, I would like to tell you that you should not in any way be very much dejected and lose hope of your aspirations being fulfilled. The chances of circumstances changing favorably can never be ruled out, and accordingly, as and when Baba wishes, your aspirations will be fulfilled. As predicted by Adi and wished by Kishan Singh. In the year 1953, Kishan Singh did have the unique opportunity of staying near Baba with the resident disciples at Dehradun. Manik Mehta was conducting an organization at Bombay called Meher Mandal. He was the head of the Mandal. Realizing his difficulty, Baba, of his own, advised him to wind up his personal activities connected with it and to dissociate himself completely from the organization to join Baba in his new life in 1950. Manik, however, failed to assign himself to Baba's wishes. Master proposes and devotee disposes. Chagan, one of the old time disciples staying with Baba, happened to ask him whether his personal decisions to be with Baba in the new life was appropriate. Asking Baba's advice about one's decision was against the spirit of the conditions outlined in the circular. Baba felt rather sad and ordered Chagan not to join him on October 16. Instead, he gave him three instructions which he had to follow. The first one was to sell the ornaments he possessed. The money received was to be used to feed Muhammad, the must at Mehrabad, as well as provide for his other needs, if any. The second was to serve somewhere or to find some suitable vocation for his maintenance. He was not to leave Bhingar, a place about 3 kilometers from Ahmednagar. The third order was to beg for his food starting December 15 for 1 year. As soon as Chagan received the instructions, he felt that he should not have changed his mind, but it was too late. The arrow had left the bow. Now the best he could do was to obey Baba, and he did so literally. The last instructions proved to be a real test. To beg for food at a place where one owns a house and a farm, and where one is regarded as a man of some status, is indeed an ordeal of a high order. Chagan had to pass through his ego. Where was I? Yeah, crushing process. Pass through his ego crushing process ungrudgingly. The date fixed in advance with Baba for that 1 year's begging happened to be the day following the death of his dear father. All his relatives, there were many, gathered at his house the very next day after his return from the cremation ground. In this atmosphere of intense bereavement, Chagan had to pick up the begging bowl and satchel. As was customary among the Hindus, the funeral rites were carried out for 14 days. During the last 2 days, special feasts were arranged in honor of the dead, but Chagan could not participate. According to Baba's instructions, he had started begging for food. Daily, at 5 houses and ate whatever was received in Bhiksha, irrespective of the bitter comments from the people. What a peculiar predicament. No wonder that when Baba learnt about this, he was immensely pleased at Chagan's obedience, leaving all to follow the one. Now about myself. By the evening of August 31, I reached Kurduwadi. The next morning, the first thing I did was to see the headmaster of the high school. I tendered my resignation, giving 1 month's notice. I did not reveal why I was leaving my job so abruptly. It was a bit surprised. He was a bit surprised. Indirectly, he blamed my mystical attitude, which he thought had blossomed me ever since I observed silence a month earlier. He, however, asked me to consider the matter. To me, this was unthinkable. The moment I had written yes and signed my name at Mirabad, I was dead to the world and yet strangely alive. I was in a carefree mood. I bore ill feeling towards none. I did not feel specially attached to anyone. I was silently bidding farewell to whomsoever I met. Perhaps it was a fine, speechless performance. I was not expected to reveal to others my intentions to accompany Baba for good. Nevertheless, I was allowed to give some idea about my determination to one of the responsible members of my family. The married ones were to convey the resolve to their wives. Being a bachelor, I decided to disclose my decision to my dear younger brother, Prabhakar. After taking the necessary promise that he would not reveal the news to anyone before October 16, I narrated to him in a nutshell the account of the last meeting at Mehrabad. He was astonished. Our dear mother had recently passed away. I was the eldest member in the family. In spite of this, Prabhakar agreed to shoulder the responsibility of the joint family. He was indeed very cooperative in all matters. We owed some land, we owned some land and a house in a village. A small bank account and some shares of a sugar company were in my name. I had to finish the legal and transferring all these to my brother's name. Whatever could be done was attended to, and the rest of it was left to the will of God. We were ready to forfeit the property of the legal procedure if the legal procedure remained incomplete or indeed needed my presence after October 1. In those days, Baba had bestowed on me a most carefree attitude, and I must admit that at present I do not possess it to that degree. In those days, nothing seemed to bother me. I used to recall the following lines. I'm not sure about the exact text from the song of the Sannyasi by Swami Vivekananda. They know no truth who dream such vacant dreams. As father, mother, children, wife, and friend, the sexless self is he who is but one. And know thou art that sannyasi to bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. I was told by one of
By the way, one
yeah,
second. It's from the book. Oh, okay. Sannyasi is just defined here. One who renounced the ways of the world to realize the truth. Let's read that poem again slowly, if you don't mind. Yeah.
yeah. They know no truth who dream such vacant dreams as father, mother, children, wife, and friend. The sexless self is he who is but one. and know thou art that sannyasi bold, say Om Tat Sat Om.
Actually, very
Last two.
nice. Actually, very nice. So I think it's a little difficult because of the style and the third person commentary that Vivekananda is using. But it's cocky. It's cocky, and it's the style of, if I may say, Francis Brabazon. So they know no truth, who dream such vacant dreams. And who are they? The father, mother, children, wife, friend, all our relationships is what we only recognize. But the self is sexless. It's one. It's the one Almighty, one infinite. And he says the sannyasi bold should say Om Tat Sat Om. Nice, very nice. I've not come across this before, but nice example. Bal
Yeah.
Natu aspect. Thank you.
I was told by one of the old timers that Baba, in the early ashram days at Mirabad, would sometimes refer to these lines to bring home the importance of renunciation. And then, in the light of this, I had resolved to leave all and to follow one and all. In the first week of September, I was under the impression that I had to present myself at Mirabad with just a coarse woolen blanket on my shoulder and nothing else. But in the second week, I received a letter containing a long list of things, clothes, and other articles of daily use, which I had to take with me. The first item was two cotton kafnis, one white, the other blue. The second was a brown woolen kafni. In India, I had never seen anyone wearing either blue or woolen long robes, but Baba's instructions made such thoughts irrelevant. I went to the tailor and asked if take the necessary measurements. He gave me an inquiring look as if I had gone mad. In addition, when I told him to sew a woolen kafni, he seemed extremely surprised. I came from a middle class family and he knew woolen clothing was a luxury for me. When I ordered these robes, he tried to ask me some direct questions. I was deliberately evasive in my replies and changed the subject. The headmaster, the tailor, and some other acquaintances probably regarded me as someone losing his mental balance. Once you come in the love orbit of Meher Baba, the God man, you may have to pass through this phase. The people are noticed remarking, he is a good man, very rational and sane is in conversation except for anything belittling Meher Baba's orders and divinity. Such words remind me of the meaningful lines of the Urdu couplets Ghani once recited. I hope the following translation will give some idea of the depth of meaning contained in the couplets.
If I can pause you before you go there, I think this statement is probably applicable to all of us as well. I'm sure behind our backs, people talk about us like this, right?
So
He's a
true.
good man, very rational and sane, but something happens to him when it comes to Meher Baba. Anyway, let's see
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Ghani has. Let's see what the Ghani Urdu couplets are. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Dear friend, following the perfect master brings in its wake resurrection under the garb of desolation. Don't judge the master and his divinity from the tests and trials that you are put in. Never think that he does not know his mind. In spite of anything that he asks you to do, he is indeed the wisest of the wise. O worldly wise, what do you know about his game of love? The list included other things like toothpaste, a shaving set, shoes, etc. When the size of the trunk was specified, I found that the trunk purchased by my father, but by my brother, was a bit too long. I had to buy another one of the required dimensions. I was eagerly waiting for the sun to set on September 30th to start by the night train for Ahmednagar. At the, at the end of the list, there was a note informing me to reach Mehrabad on October 5. I thought from October 1, I shall be relieved from my teaching job. Then my neighbors and friends will know that I have left the school. Maybe some will visit me at home inquiring about my future plans. And I was thoroughly prepared for this Baba joke, the jeer made to Saki, the wine seller. I do not know much about the difficulties of those staying at Mehrabad or Mehrazad, except for those of Ghani. He was one of the Yeswalas, but the necessity of providing his wife and children with a minimum income after his departure for the new life continued to bother him. It was especially in relation to the property at Lonavla. 2 decades earlier, Ghani owned 5 houses at Lonavla, a place 40 kilometers from Pune. At that time, he owed 16,000 rupees to a moneylender who, through legal maneuvers, were successful in getting the court to order all those houses transferred to his name. In fact, the estimated value of the court was a great blow to Ghani. No. Okay. In fact, the estimated value of the whole property was about 60,000 rupees. The decree of the court was a great blow to Ghani. The day this order was to come into effect, the moneylender and his wife were surprisingly murdered. The police department in the investigation tried to find out if Ghani in any way was involved in this heinous crime. Fortunately, in those days, he was staying with Baba. The police, for lack of evidence, did not level any charges against him. The whole affair, however, weighed so heavily on him that on his return to Lonavala, Ghani thought of committing suicide. One night, in a desperate mood, he went to a nearby lake and cursed all the masters in the world, including Baba, for being so unjust and unkind to him. At the last moment, nevertheless, he dared not throw himself into the lake. The next morning, most expectedly, Baba visited Lonavala and asked Gani why he had been calling on him so intensely the previous night. This revealed to Gani Baba's omniscience, and thereupon he decided to resign himself to the karmic debts and dues ordained by the divine will. Yeah. Somebody can read now?
Yeah, I thought as much. Anybody wants to take over? Otherwise, I will take over again. Yeah, I'll continue, Sanjay ji, no problem. Jai Baba. Thank you. And I'll continue. He also promised Baba to stay near him whenever called. Ghani had appealed the decision of the court, and in 1939, he got back three-fifths of his property. Later, he dedicated this property to Baba. In 1949, when the arrangements connected with the New Life phase were being discussed, Baba casually mentioned that he had it in mind to make some definite provision for Ghani's wife and children, especially while disposing of the property at Lonavala that was dedicated to him. As the days passed by, Ghani noticed that his particular personal problem was neither attended to nor even referred to by Baba. So thoughts about the future of his family members continued to disturb him. He had anticipated Baba doing something to help in this matter. In September, he gave vent to his uneasy thoughts. 'I am going to die. through a ghazal which was read out to Baba. Baba appreciated the frankness of Ghani, but at the same time asked Tak, named Abbas, one of his disciples, who too was a poet, to give an adequate reply to Ghani as from Baba. I intend to quote a few excerpts from the English translations of these two Urdu ghazals. They give an idea of Baba's relationship with his close disciples and also the way he stirred up the emotions of those near him and how, in due course, he restored harmony. The title of Ghani's ghazal was A Jeremiad to Saki. He wrote, Tonight the members of the tavern are meeting in a session. Tonight the master of the tavern also is gracing the occasion. Tonight, if permitted, I wish to unburden my heart. Hereafter, the love and lover and this divine night will only be a dream. I am notorious in the world as a free thinker. Excuse me if the wailing tune is not so sweet to the air. O Saki, hear for once the groans of the faithful ones. This bemoaning is nevertheless tinged with love. O Saki, do you, or maybe it's just Saki. O Saki, do you recall to mind the plethora of promises? These,
It
the
is
uninvited,
Saki. It is Saki. Let me correct
not
because
Saki.
this word is
Okay,
coming in. It's called
okay,
Saki.
okay.
Saki is the one who serves you the drink. So
Oh,
we
okay.
call God also Saki, many times because
As the
he's
one.
making you intoxicated with his love. So in
Mm,
ghazals, that word is also addressed to the beloved. Yeah, yeah, Baba.
thank you, thank you, thank you. So, O Saki, do you recall to mind the plethora of promises? These, the uninvited gestures of kindness and favors, shattered our reasoning and vanquished our resistance. We were caught just on the threshold of our lives. O Saki, do you remember the postponement of your promises to June and September? We often recall such incidents for amusements. You begin to evolve subterfuges and excuses. There is no one to beat you at this game. Often you have played the game of construction and destruction. No sooner we felt settled, there was unsettlement. The breeze of destruction, however, was never so strong as on this occasion. It seems the present game implied perfect destruction. The school of love for years underwent a routine course. What seized you to change suddenly the curriculum so drastically? Mere words can never remove the age long ruts of temperament and nature, when it is a problem even for advanced souls. I mean, now, I mean, can you see what's going on? It's such a sophisticated way of complaining to Baba. And so I now get why Baba used to say Ghani was so special. Ghani was so special. It's beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Okay. So he's complaining, but in this long-winded and subtle manner to to the avatar. Anyway, let's go ahead. I can't wait. Saki's reply to the Jeremiad. At the next meeting, Kaka Sahib, as instructed by Baba, was ready with the answer. It was in the form of couplets. This ghazal, on behalf of Baba, was read out openly before Baba and his close disciples. Some of the lines are given below. Inmates of the tavern, do you know whose is the wailing note today? The voice, evidently, is one of our beneficiaries. How dared he complain about the tyranny of the Saki? Can he truly say that the wine eternal has not benefited him at all? Don't disgrace the name of free thinking. Free thinker never caters for name and fame. The Saki has not forgotten his promises and his uncalled for gestures of kindness and favors. It would be near the mark if I were to call you short sighted. Whatever I did was just the right thing in your case. The so called freedom of your dreams, like death, would have dragged you down to the depths of ignominy and shame. I'll see what the footnote is for death. Yeah, I thought Ghani's attempt to commit suicide at Lonavala, which we read 2 pages back. In the world, for one beautiful, there is one better. In intellect and learning, there are hundreds superior to you. Just explain what particular qualification you possess that amongst others you become select in my eyes. The process of purifying the heart is not a child's game. The ordeal of surrender and resignation is long and tedious. Your hasty temperament has blurred your vision. In this path, there is tardiness, but not niggardliness. We'll go back and check the meanings of these two words later. Listen to the Saki, don't lose heart. Success depends on the will to do and die. Give up all considerations of profit and loss. The all merciful master of the tavern will no doubt make you drink one day the wine of immortal life. Wow. Has anybody come across these two things before? This is really, really moving. I just loved it. So let me see why Baba says there will be tardiness, but not niggardliness. So tardiness is just being late. Okay. So being late, unpunctuality, that's what tardiness is. And niggardliness. So, okay, niggardliness is ungenerous and stingy. Wow. So Baba says, I may not do it in time. I will do it in my own time, but I will be absolutely unstingy. Beautiful, isn't it? In this path, there is tardiness, but not niggardliness. Okay, so any comments before we go ahead? I thought this was a beautiful exchange between the lover and the beloved. Gentlemen and ladies, no comments. I'm surprised.
No comment because it was
Good,
so
good.
gravitating.
Yes, yes, yes. Very deep, very deep. It and also universal. It's universal, beloved, and universally applicable to all lovers and the beloved. Right?
So
Anyway,
this
let's continue.
this somehow gives some sort of a explanation or a definition of surrender, obedience. So don't think of consequences. Don't expect anything. Just surrender.
Yeah, yeah, very, very difficult, but that's exactly what's required. And by this exchange, Baba is recording the depth and nature of the surrender and the fact that those who surrender will get their reward in time, in Baba's time. And like he says in that first paragraph, I know what to do for your soul. The Saki has not forgotten. No, no. There was one line amongst you, maybe previous page. Inmates of the whole swinging. There, can he truly sound? Remark. Kama, you missed something very beautiful. So-called freedom. I liked one line. Ah, the process of purifying the heart is not a child's game. The ordeal of surrender and resignation is long and tedious. Yeah. So these two tell you that it will take some time, and it's like polishing a diamond. To use to borrow a phrase which Kama also uses frequently, right? So it's a diamond in the rough. You have to polish it, and that's what Baba is doing on all of us. And he says it's not a child's game. It will take time. It's long and tedious. Beautiful, very very
Yeah.
beautiful.
Jai Baba
Jai,
Karthik,
Jai Baba.
you can highlight those lines.
Sure.
Which, Jai Baba, comment. Yes, we are all rough diamonds polishing ourselves. That is from a Brian Weiss
Yeah,
book.
I know. I remember.
But apart from that, I always have this problem with purifying the heart. See, the heart is very clear. I think it is more like a metaphor, but it's the mind. The whole
Yes.
challenge is about the mind. It's not about the heart. So the ambiguity of the language, English language, the heart is always clean. It takes in oxygen, which is non-dual. So I think the intuitive heart is always clear and clean. That is your real I self. So I think we should always look at the mind. It's the mind is the main problem. Manonash. That is what we are trying to do. So we need to kind of rephrase that sentence. Hey, Baba.
Sentence. So let's not rephrase, but I accept what you say, which is the metaphorical nature of the use of the word heart here. It's more the drop soul that's being worked on. It's more the individual small I. It's more the beloved, not, I mean, the lover that's being worked upon. Anyway, you missed the context, so don't worry about your comment on the semantics. It's a beautiful exchange between Ghani and Baba in poetry. So both of them have written poetry to each other in public. One complaining about his predicament just before getting into new life, and Baba responding to that beautifully and subtly. It's very beautiful. Anyway, let's continue. Uh,
Before you continue, in connection with what Kama told now, so the purifying heart, the context of that, we should look in the way that heart is unnecessarily covered by the brain. So we need to remove that now and then. So heart will come out beautiful and pure as ever when the mind is out of it. We can look like that.
See, we must understand this is a ghazal.
Yes,
It's a poetry. So you
yes,
talk of heart in poetry. It's not a discourse or anything. So let's. I think we can avoid dwelling down heart and mind discussion on this poetry part at least. Yeah. Jai Baba.
no, no, yeah, I agree. But Mama's point also is minor but important. What he's saying is
Yeah.
heart dominates, but we don't let it dominate because of the mind, right? So that's
That's
correct.
correct. Baba wants us to have
Yeah,
the right balance.
exactly.
So, Jai Baba.
Yeah, Baba. Let's continue. If Baba, the all knowing and compassionate one, guided Ghani inwardly to maintain his mental poise. In connection with this incident, Ghani wrote in the diary of the new life over some misunderstanding in the matter of adjusting the disposal of Lonagla properties, an ugly situation developed, which Baba eventually tidied over, thereby saving for Dr. Ghani the dire consequences of his rebellious mood over the question. There's a footnote. Okay. There's a unpublished diary of the new life where this is recorded and quoted from. Ghani was a very outspoken person. Once he said to me, I am here with Baba not only for Khuda, God, but also for Kurda, money, coins of different denomination. Perhaps he was joking. Whether he was or wasn't, his capacity to quote appropriate couplets from Urdu and Persian ghazals and poems to Baba's satisfaction was remarkable. Besides, his wit and humor were superb, and Baba felt happy and relaxed in Ghani's company. In this great game of material dispensation, Baba heard that a certain mill owner often spoke proudly of having helped Baba's cause in cash and kind a decade ago. So Baba sent two of his disciples, including Sarosh Irani, to meet this person. He was given to understand that it was not he who obliged Baba with his services, but in fact he was fortunate enough to be blessed by the avatar by his accepting them, and he ought to have felt grateful for this to him. From the boastful remarks he had made earlier, it was clear that he had failed to understand this fundamental principle. Hence, in that very same meeting, to his great astonishment, and in spite of his repeated refusals, he was fully recompensed. Poor mill owner. It was too late for him to rectify his mistake. Wow. As for the correspondence from the West, I learned that Gabriel Pascal from the USA sent a cable inquiring when he should visit India to see Baba in connection with the film that Pascal wished to produce on Baba's life. Baba cabled back to him, the new life phase that I have just decided upon will not make possible our meeting in December 1949 for Avatar film. See me sometime, somewhere, just for the meeting of love. The training center at Belgaum. In the second week of September, Baba discussed with his companions the preliminary phases of the new life. The first period of training, which would include physical labor, was to be at Belgaum. The second period, comprising of the bhiksha, begging, and wearing of langoti, loincloth, was to be at Benares. And during the subsequent march on foot, the third period, consisting of the gypsy life, was to be practiced on the way to Haridwar. At the end of this meeting, Baba conveyed, in order to help and guide the S-Walas, I desire to give training by being easy with them at first. As after the end of December 1949, this new life with me will be an absolute satyanashi, the ruin. From January 1950, may God help you all. Thus, Belgaum, about 375 kilometers to the south of Pune in the Karnataka state, was to be the first training center. In the entire month of August, Baba did not disclose whether he wished to lead his new life at a certain place in a particular area. He would just gesture, I can't say anything. We may go anywhere. In September, he casually let out the secret that he intended to have a small piece of land near Hardwar. In the end, a small estate was purchased in the village of Manjari Mafi, 4 miles from the city of Dehradun, on the way to Hardwar. The work Baba wished to conduct from Manjari Mafi was mostly connected with the twin pilgrimage centers of Haridwar and Rishikesh. So Baba generally referred to this estate as the Haridwar property. This was to be the headquarters for his new life activities. The minimum essential arrangement for lodging was under construction, and it required some time for its completion. Therefore, in the beginning, a short stay at Kuldabad near Aurangabad was considered. This was changed, and it was decided to stay at Belgaum. I need a pause for a second. There's somebody at the door. This was changed, and it was decided to stay at Belgaum. Nearby the city, at Talakwadi, a suburb, Vishnu, one of Baba's disciples, owned a piece of land. He volunteered to put it at Baba's disposal. There was already a small structure on this farm which could be used as a shelter for the four women disciples accompanying Baba. As for the Eswalas, a small hut, 20 feet by 30 feet, with tiled roof and bamboo matting on the sides had to be erected. Vishnu took upon himself the responsibility of finishing this job by October 16th. Belgaum was a good distance from Ahmednagar, and there the possibility of the public approaching Baba or his companions with various enquiries was much less. To ensure that the curiosity aroused by his presence and his mandali would not lead to any complications, Baba asked Sarosh Irani, who was a person of considerable influence with the government officers, to inform the superintendent of police at Belgaum about Baba's activities and his proposed stay for about a month and a half there. A game of French tennis. According to Baba's orders, I was at Mehrabad on October 5th. Before getting down from the Tonga, I gave the driver nearly double the amount of the fare. He looked pleased and surprised to receive this large tip from a commoner like me. I too was very happy, for according to Baba's instructions, when entering the premises of Mehrabad, I had to be penniless, and I now was. All the Eswalas had come. In a way, this was simply the summation of all that he had been saying directly or indirectly during the past weeks. The new points which Baba mentioned were: all Yeswalas are bound to the fulfillment of two responsibilities. One, to bring my body after death to Mehrabad Hill. Two, also to bring Mehra's body after her death to Mehrabad Hill and to bury the same beside my tomb. He also asked the arrangement walas to adhere sincerely to the responsibilities assigned to them. The next morning, Haq Sahib read some ghazals to Baba. I still recall the following simile which Baba appreciated. It runs as follows: O beloved, if you were to ask me about the splendor of the scars of longing on my heart, I may dare say that it is brighter than the brilliance of the heavenly bodies. Thank you. After an hour or so, Baba was busy in his cabin, calling some of the disciples to assign them some work or to give them a few instructions. In the afternoon, he played French tennis with us. In this game, one has to hold the tennis racket right on the toes. The other players have a tennis ball. When the ball is thrown at the batsman, he has to hit it. He can move the racket to any side but not change the position of his feet. If he's caught, he is out. If the ball hits the batsman below his knees, he is out. Baba had his own way of forming new games. By a fluke, I hit the ball well that day. When the game was over, while returning to the hall, I felt a pat on my shoulder. That was Baba's. He gestured. You played well today. I just kept quiet. He continued. Do you play cricket too? I replied, I used to play when I was in the high school. Not now? Baba asked. No, I answered. Why? Baba inquired. When I was in college, I had a severe lung hemorrhage, which was subsequently diagnosed as tuberculosis. Since then, I haven't played cricket. I added, trying to clarify the situation. Will you be able to walk 15 to 20 kilometers a day in the new life? Baba asked pointedly. In a low voice, I said, I will try my best, Baba. Thereupon, Baba instructed me, come to Mehrazad on October 8th morning. There is a program of distributing food, grain, and cloth to the poor and the other deserving people. Whatever duty shall be given to you, do it with your hearts. Then I may tell you something. Baba looked so compassionately at me that Ghani, who was standing near me, could not help remarking later, Bal, Baba seems to be very considerate in your case. You are lucky. I neither understood what Baba meant by something nor what Ghani implied by calling me lucky. I must, however, admit that from the very beginning, Baba has been most considerate and compassionate towards me in all my life with him. Perhaps every Baba lover feels so, and I believe that everyone is perfectly right. According to Baba's instructions, I went to Mehrazad. The poor people from the nearby villages had gathered in the open space. I was asked to help Baba's mandali in separating the men and women into rows and leading them by turn to the room where Baba washed the feet of each and handed over a bundle of prasad wrapped in cloths. For a short time, I was allowed to stand near the room, watching Baba at his work. That was a wonderful experience. When all the people had dispersed, he called me near. Dr. Donkin and Dr. Neelu were standing near him. He pointed at my frail body and asked the doctors if I could bear the hardships of the new life. Neelu touched my collarbone and ribs. The two doctors exchanged a few medical terms which I could not follow. They reported the matter to Baba and he asked me to be present at Adi's office in Ahmednagar the next day at 9 a.m. Savak Kotwal was to take me in his jeep from Mehrabad to Nagar. Baba assigns my duty. On October 9, I was at Adi's office. Baba had already arrived and Ramju was discussing some points with him. Soon, I was called inside. Without asking me anything, Baba conveyed through gestures, pleased with you and your love for me. Then he asked Ramju to take out the mimeographed copy of the circular of the New Life conditions that was signed by me on August 31st. Baba told Ramju, as far as I remember to write, Bal will be with me in my new life to the very end. Then he put his signature under it. Turning to me, he conveyed, without any fault of yours, of my own will, I free you from joining me physically in my new life. Go back to your place. Continue the type of life that you were leading before. You have left your service, I know. So if you need some money, I will arrange for that. All this was so unexpected that I only replied to the last statement. Baba, with your blessings, I can manage without asking for financial help from anyone. Baba added, incidentally, there is one order for you. Don't touch a woman with an intention of lust. Really, this was a great blessing bestowed on me. This order from Baba, I felt, proclaimed his inner and outer help in my attempt to refrain from any lustful action. Respectfully, I lowered my head to convey my consent and said, yes, Baba. Baba continued, last night I had a thought about Mauni. You know him. In the last interview, I had asked him to see me after a period of 6 months. According to the conditions of the new life, no one is expected to visit me after October 16th. Therefore, contact him and convey my message that he should wholeheartedly carry out the instructions given to him. But now he must never try to see me, even if he happens to know my whereabouts. There is a footnote. Yeah, so it's a reference to the earlier chapter where Mauni was given instructions. He was given, I think, four instructions, if I remember correctly. I answered, Baba Mauni left Kurduvadi a month ago to stay either at Haridwar or Rishikesh. I do not know his address. How can I find him? Baba appeared displeased with this reply. On the board, he spelt out that it was a duty given to me and that I had to do it. I felt ashamed and thought I shouldn't have answered the way I did. I silently stood up, feeling rather guilty. Baba gestured that I should wait a little while outside the room. After some time, he called me again. Found him in a good mood, beaming and radiating joy. He gestured, don't worry about anything, and smiled. I took it as a promise of guidance for the rest of my life and felt greatly relieved. Loving farewell. Was given 10 rupees and Baba instructed, take a tonga to Mehrabad, have your lunch, and leave immediately for the railway station to catch the train. Humbly bowed down to him, left my job and my family to stay permanently with Baba, but now, after just 4 days, I was being sent back with no possibility of ever seeing him again. For me, it was an astounding situation. It gave me a glimpse of what life is like with the Master. As I came out of Khushru quarters, I found a tonga waiting at the gate. I regarded it as a Baba sent conveyance. As I reached Mehrabad, some were surprised to see me leaving so abruptly. I told them in a nutshell what had happened. Someone remarked, Minu and you are lucky. I did not know then that Minu was also excused from physically being with Baba in the new life. Even now, I do not know the reason for this. I had my lunch, I collected my articles, and within an hour left for the station. Purchased a ticket for Kurduwadi, a place which 5 days ago I felt I would never visit again for the rest of my life. My brother and those at home, as well as my colleagues, were much surprised. When I told the headmaster that I wished to resume my duties in the school after the winter vacation, he had every right to criticize me. Can one ever convince others logically of one's life with the God man unless one belongs to the same flock? My friends too probably took me as a crazy person, but no one said anything openly. The new life, in fact, was to begin on October 16th, but for me, the new life had already been inaugurated. Baba inwardly guided me to perform the duty he had assigned me, but to maintain the chronological sequence, I intend to narrate the details of it in the next chapter. General circular about the new life. In September, Baba conveyed to his disciples and followers through his secretary Adike Irani that he had completely stopped accepting anything from anyone in the form of a gift. On October 10th, special circular was issued for all the Baba people in the East and the West, disclosing the most unanticipated news about the new life. It read as follows: Baba ends his old life of multifarious activities and with a few companions begins his new life of complete renunciation and absolute helplessness from October 16, 1949. Although Baba's and his companions' new life will be known to everyone and their whereabouts will be no secret, no one should try to see Baba or his companions for any reason whatsoever, as Baba will not see any of them nor allow his companions to do so. No one should try to communicate with Baba or his companions under any circumstances or for any reason whatsoever, by order of Baba. Only Elinor, that is Elizabeth, and Norina from the USA were allowed to cable Baba in connection with the work that was entrusted to them during their interview with him in the first week of August 1949. All who learned of this short but most unexpected circular were greatly astonished. Its contents were entirely incomprehensible. To most of them, the terms old life and new life were not only completely new, but completely unintelligible as well. They only loved and knew about Baba's divine life. The one whom they loved so dearly was all of a sudden departing never to return again. No one could imagine why. The circular had forbidden them from even wishing their dear master a heartwarming farewell. In addition, they were not permitted to express their feelings through letters. They had to keep quiet. Can the compassionate one be so harsh? What sort of new life is this? Even to this day, Baba's new life phase is the most difficult to comprehend. The external details, the journeys, and the diaries are there. These and more information gathered later from those who accompanied Baba from the data for his form the data for this narration of his new life. But it is hardly an attempt to explain it. Who knows? Perhaps some statements Baba made during this period may whisper the secret of this phase, some of his dear ones, even now. All I can say is that Baba, as the avatar, infinite consciousness, had to work and to express himself through a finite human form. This helped create both the enigma and beauty of him and his new life. On October 12th, Baba conveyed to the S-Walas. This continual 1 month's working day and night, personally seeing every detail of winding up the old life and arranging for the endless new life, had made me literally dead exhausted, both mentally and physically. Therefore, I order my companions beforehand that from October 16th to October 22nd, I will be in a relaxed mood, tired and easy towards my companions, in order to be free from physical and mental strain. We leave Mehrabad in early morning of October 16th, and my companion should walk a furlong ahead of me with the four women companions. The men should laugh, talk, and be cheerful without jeopardizing the conditions. Baba's program was to enter the first new life journey by walking the distance on the Ahmednagar Pune road as far as Chas. Day prior to the commencement of the new life, Baba arrived at Mehrabad fairly early. He gave final instructions to the arrangement walas, Sarosh, Ramju, Meherji, and Nariman. Padri and Sidhu were to stay at Lower Mehrabad. Mansari and Jaibai were to reside at Upper Mehrabad, the hill. Sidhu's duty was to serve and look after the Mast Muhammad. Baba inspected the traveling bags of those who were to accompany him. He instructed the S-Walas to retire as early as 7 p.m. and to wake up at 2 a.m. Bath was compulsory. After having tea, everyone was to get himself ready to bid adieu for good to Mehrabad by 4 a.m. on October 16th, 1949. After the inspection and instructions, Baba agreed to sit for a group photo with those present. The atmosphere of the day was of mixed emotions. That most eagerly awaited day was almost there. It was indeed a serious affair, and yet it had a strange thrill of its own. The new life phase begins. Accordingly, on October 16th, in the early morning, Baba's new life companions were taken in a bus from Mehrabad to the railway crossing near the Ahmednagar station. Baba, with the four women disciples, arrived from Mehrazad. He permitted Sarosh Adi Jr., which is Meher Baba's youngest brother, Sarosh Adi Jr., and Savak Damania to wave goodbye. Just while leaving, it began to rain, and Sarosh suggested that up to the first halt, he be allowed to follow the Baba party very slowly in his car. In case it began to rain heavily, the car would be at Baba's disposal. Baba agreed. The New Life March began at the railway crossing. After walking a short distance, Baba bade every companion to stand behind him. Then he himself and the companions reverentially touched the ground with their fingers. While bowing down to the ground, Baba silently took an oath, the contents of which he never disclosed. After a minute, with upraised hands, Baba asked all to utter the following prayer. O God, make this new life for all of us a success and joy eternal. The journey on foot continued for a few furlongs. The wind blew harder and brought more rain. In place of raincoats, the companions, like the Indian farmers, put gunny bags on their head. Baba seemed happy with this whim of the weather and gestured, a good sign. The rains continued unabated. Therefore, Baba and the companions were taken in cars to Supa, a distance of about 24 kilometers from Ahmednagar. The first halt at Chas, previously planned, was skipped. Supa Sarosh and the others bade farewell to all and returned. Baba and the women accompanied, Baba and the women occupied the rest house at Supa. The men accommodated themselves in small rooms near a kitchen and a garage in the same compound. Baba, squatting on the stone flooring in the midst of his companions, explained the three periods preceding the new life. The first was of relaxation, the second was of training in hard labor, begging, etc. The third, which he termed as a vacuum period, was to be of 10 days at the fag end of 1949. He concluded the chat by stating, from January 1st onwards, characterizing the new life, there will be 100% hopelessness and helplessness, which even the gods will envy. Baba assured all of his help in attuning themselves to the new life. The earnest response expected of each companion was a literal compliance with Baba's orders. He also conveyed all should try to be 100% truthful and speak the truth alone, whatever be their circumstances and consequences. The quotation has a footnote. It's from Ghani's unpublished Diary of the New Life, page 7 of it. A new way of living started from the very first day. Supa, Baba ordered all to take a bath, and for this, everyone had to fetch water from a well a furlong away. To Ghani, it was an ordeal. Seeing him panting heavily while carrying the bucket of water, Baba lent Ghani, his childhood friend, a helping hand. As if to compensate for this life, which the Yeswalas were not used to, Baba, with a cheering smile, distributed chocolates and dried fruits to all. This trait of teasing and pleasing the companions was reminiscent of life with Baba in Manzil Amin, Dadar, Bombay in 1922, when he used to mix freely with his disciples. During the first halt on the second day, Baba, sitting with the companions in the unfurnished garage, explained, we are all on equal footing from now on in the new life. Baba is to be looked upon and treated as a friend. In one respect alone, Baba will be a master towards all, and that is in respect of demanding implicit obedience. In all other respects, perfect freedom of behaving towards Baba should be observed. Such a freedom of behaving should not smack of beadabi, impudence. Barring this, all are free to indulge in humor, joviality, jokes, and laughter. Nothing will please me more is also from the unpublished diary. Perhaps such a relationship holds the seed of the new life wherein one has to be simultaneously friend and slave of the God man, fully free to remain honest to oneself, yet bound outright to the divine will of the beloved. One has to be in readiness to share the supper and to shoulder the cross too. Was that the secret of the new life? On that teasing question, we will take a pause and stop for the day and continue next week. Any comments or thoughts before we wrap up? But I believe it was a very nice, special reading. Bal Natu's style is very good. What we read today was very interesting. So, any comments from all of you?
Yeah. I mean, I only comment I feel is the salutes to the people who joined Baba, getting into
Yes.
unknown, holding just his. And Baba said that you yourself are responsible. That's what even Bart Parks was talking,
Yes.
Don't blame me for what happens to you. And still they decided to join Baba into a life which was not known. That's I think the complete surrender, if you may use that word. Yeah, Baba.
Jai Baba. Beautiful.
Jay Baba, the other thing I want to say is from what I've read is that the woman Mandali and the men Mandali probably said that even though the new life was very physically difficult, but it was probably the most enjoyable time that they had with Baba because of the life of hopelessness and helplessness was basically about living in the moment. So there was no anticipation about the future nor thinking about the past because that was also in Baba's, those circulars that he sent. So in a way, it was probably a very interesting time for the Mandali to be with Baba because you are actually living in the moment, which is what everybody should be aspiring to. That is a form of self awareness. And so that is what I gathered. Jai Baba.
Interesting. Hopelessness and helplessness to mean living in the moment, which is very correct because hope is always about forward structure. And yeah, so basically, you're saying just take it as it comes and that's it. And that's interesting, very interesting. But looking forward to reading more about the new life and understanding more. With that,
In
we'll
fact,
stop
in fact, I
recording.
would, in fact, I
Yeah,
would suggest that we should read that the New Life song that was written by Gani both in Hindi or and English before you read this to read that every time because that kind of gives a very good gist of the reading as well as the whole essence of the new life. So
sure. We remember to have that for next Saturday, and we'll read that before we start. Jai Baba, everybody. I'm stopping recording, but we can hang out for a bit.